what it comes down to is this concept of slowing down to speed up. So we just have to slow our awareness down so that then we can start to pick up on the subtle nuances that are existing. And this is something that we all strive for naturally, which means that it's naturally there for us to connect to. So if there's something which is natural, then is there a concept which is unnatural within the experience of your mind in relation to the reflection? And potentially with a reaction, we could say yes. But with further exploration into the nature of this concept, we can see that quite easily it is all very natural, because it is easy for you to do that. And that's what I'm speaking about. Nature is very easily does these things. Very, very easily all of the water flows towards the ocean. Easy to the point where it doesn't even matter what you put in front of that water, it's just going to keep on rolling over whatever it is that you put in front of it. So within the mind, we develop these pathways that are just like rivers, so to speak, also connecting through the body, the nervous system, even more subtle, the nadis, and they become very easy for us. So within its ease, sometimes there is an element of complexity. Just because it's easy going down that path doesn't necessarily mean that it's yielding this exact quality that we're speaking of for our meditation practice, this exacting of nature. So then as we look into the experience of one's own mind in relation to meditation, we can start to see where we've actually trained ourselves to have thought process, have emotional experience, have development within that busyness and unsettled qualities. Yes.
I'm wondering if this intellectualization that you're talking about, if you think it's something that's a little more unique to yoga in the West as it's taking shape, and this is sort of a unique problem that we have to learn how to solve for ourselves, or if it's kind of more of a universal.
I think it is very much universal, because the human psyche is the human psyche, and it doesn't really matter what part of the planet that we come from, but this inquisitive nature and the ongoing relationship between intelligence and intellect will always kind of be there. So the intellect needs to understand it, wants to understand it. That's its function.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just the reason I ask is just, sort of this post-Enlightenment Western world seems to be sort of historically set apart from where the origins of yoga might have been.
Yeah.
But
I hear what you're saying, and I'm keeping that in mind with our little discussion that we're having together. But even within the East, it's been built out quite a bit from its simplicity of the inception. Okay. That moment where someone was reflecting on their relationship with nature and how the environment influences this inner reality. So that is very simple. And then what began to grow out of that is complexity of technique, complexity of understanding, how deities connect to the particular states of mind, body, and it became very complex.
Mm-hmm. So either way, that needs to get dug into.
So in both ways, the intellect and our intelligence are present. So what I'm proposing is that we just stop at that one point within the developing meditation, instead of thinking about it and solving that beautiful equation, which it is a beautiful, very much even mathematical equation, and just simply reside in the exposure of the reflection itself, without words needed,
Mm-hmm.
without concepts being built, just be there. And so this is a stage of meditation where very quickly, as you get going on a regular meditation practice, you kind of hit that place where things become quiet, but then what do you do? So it's, oh, I'm just here, sitting here. And that is very true. But there's so much that is occurring within that quality of space that is developing. And one of the things which is occurring is the clearing of the reflection that you have with yourself. So that deep soul, that is surrounded by this consciousness. Mm-hmm.
Great. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions around that? So then, I guess, always the question arises, well, then what comes out of that? What comes out of this newfound ability to quiet down the mind to the point where you can see your reflection clearly? Many things begin to happen within that quality of space that at the beginning primarily begins to influence the external components of your reality. So the ratio of reaction and response begins to change. So for some, maybe reaction is increased. We react to our environment, and the reaction of the environment is almost a switch that's hit, where the understanding, sometimes even the intuition of intelligence shuts off, and what turns on is the emotional component that reveals itself, that sets onto those tracks which it is very comfortable with, and it moves, often quickly. So quickly that we actually aren't able to catch it, to stop it, even if we want to. So that balance begins to change, where the reactions then turn into responses. And the response can be connected to the very nature of your deepest experience that you're having within your meditation practice. So this is the agent which is now slowing down the awareness. This is not dulling the awareness, it's just slowing it down, which means often it's sharpening it. So slowing down the awareness so we begin to catch all these moments as they are arising. And in a very clear way, recognizing that the organization of the brain, the quality of the mind, is not the individual who is observing. It's a component, a useful tool. It's an element which together makes up the human experience, but we are not ruled by that. We are not that. So within that observation, within that understanding, the response mechanism begins to yield a new result within the environment. So each time we do that, each time we engage with our environment on the external level, and in a sense we win, because we've not reacted, but we've responded, we actually strengthen the communication, that network within the body. We're giving that communication and network newfound resolve. We heighten the confidence, and we spare ourselves whatever may happen out of a reaction. But then we take that information back into the meditation. And when I say information, I mean the quality of space that we found. This peace, tranquility, clarity, and we place it back into our meditation. And remembering that we always follow the exact same path, so we're doing exactly the same thing every single time. Sitting in the posture exactly like this. Take your breath exactly like that. Set your gaze and just simply calm the mind so that you're able to watch thought. But watching thought from the perspective of observer. So then what begins to happen is we cultivate a stronger relationship with the quality of space and a deeper stillness, a deeper level of quiet, so that we can peer into what is within that space, and inside that space is a lot. So as we keep returning back again and again to that reflective, calm waters of the mind, and getting it to the point where there is truly no longer any activity, then we're able to take our concentration, which is on a cellular level truly, so the whole being, physical, energetic, mental, is engaged within the concentration, and we can apply it just to the point between the eyes as we gaze into that vista of the eternal, and apply the concentration, which is truly increasing in its pureness of awareness, because now it's no longer tinted by the mind's thoughts and ideas, but now it's becoming just pure awareness into the quality of space. So now you are developing a relationship to the most subtle form that makes up who you are, with the pure intention which goes beyond idea, beyond thought, beyond word. And the two are now meeting together and creating a loop system, so almost like a biofeedback. So the increased relaxation that incurs is the increased responsiveness and depth that you experience with the quality of space. The increased depth experienced within the quality of space is now felt within your physical system. But then it's retained. So this is this concept of heightened awareness. We're increasing in our ability to heighten our awareness and hit new levels, planes of consciousness. So these new heightened levels, planes of consciousness, becomes increasingly more quiet. Increasing in this quiet element or aspect of the human experience means understanding, means clarity, direction, vision, because it's no longer shrouded by many thoughts and ideas that typically have nothing to do with what's happening in your life at that current moment. So now your life becomes very streamlined, and this is the goal of the meditation practice, is to streamline one's life. Streamline one's life. But this happens naturally. It naturally happens because this is the nature of things. That's a big concept out there. It's the nature of things. So all of the rivers flow towards the ocean. So this is a very big ocean of consciousness. and the rolling of the waves. So it's never separate from itself. It's just manifesting and then returning back. It manifests and then returns back. And it's those waves that we want to connect to now. The wave of consciousness as it's moving through you. And you are on that wave. You are on a continuous basis on that wave. So as we increase in our ability to heighten our awareness, this plane of consciousness is increasing. Now the subject and the object begin to mature. So what is subject and what is object? You are a subject, and the object is then what you are engaging with as your sounding board to your reality. We want to get to ideally a universal consciousness level, so that you're working with the universe itself, no longer with the individual mind, which is riddled with questions. It is a riddle. The individual human mind is a puzzle that we are on a continuous basis solving. So as we elevate ourselves to this universal level of consciousness, we are now sitting within the presence of the element of where questions are answered. So another way of saying it is your higher form of self. So quieting down the mind means that the questions have already been heard and understood. Would you not agree? You already know the question before you ask it. You already understand that you have a question. But it's just so easy. And it makes us feel like we're doing something about it. So we just keep going. So quieting down the mind is now the realization that the question has been heard and it's understood. It's understood that the question has been asked. So now we have to get the answer. So as many times as we try outside answers, we need to equally include the inside answer. The two together, coupled, the inner and the outer, with the full understanding and belief that they're going to work together. So now this individual is communicating at a level which it can now, in a sense, communicate with itself on a heightened, expanded form. So a heightened and expanded form means as universal consciousness, and you as the individual is one and the same. One and the same. And that your communication and relationship is now going to mature. So just like anything, it's exacting. There is an exact posture, an exact breathing rhythm, an exact way of holding the gaze, an exact way of responding rather than reacting to your own thoughts and your own emotions, then to maintain the equanimity of this space that we are developing for communication. Now this is very, very easy, very, very simple. On a very easy and simple level, this is attainable through the development of your seat, through the development of your breath, and through the development of your mind. So that each one of those stages within your meditation practice, from comfort all the way through into dynamic stillness, you're going increment by increment deeper. And when we say deeper, we mean increased more subtlety. And within that subtlety, your awareness is heightening. Because in order to feel something like the flow of the fluid within your body, everything has to quiet down just a little bit for you to detect it. Or for you to connect to the flow of breath through your body and its exact pathway. Everything must quieten down. And then as you go into the mind, to find the origin of thought. So everything must now go to its place of origin in order for you to find that flow of your thinking as it comes out of that beautiful source, that mountain, or however you see it. So everything must go back into its original place and settle right down. So how much work do we get done when we're at rest? A huge amount. A huge amount of work actually is accomplished when we are in a restful state. The word relaxation means poised and ready, when the tissue is actually poised and ready. But the same thing goes for the mind. Peak performance is achieved when the mind is in a relaxed state. So we increase our productivity when we learn how to just simply relax. So what that means also for your mind and its thoughts, when the mind is in a relaxed state, then it can resolve itself for itself. And it's just very small because you're just one individual. But what that small resolution does is it sends out a ripple. And that ripple becomes very big. It can send itself all the way, meaning on an eternal level, it just can keep on going. So to begin to realize that the work that we're doing when we become restful, when we become quiet, when we become still, is benefiting the whole, so the whole of your life, but also the whole of society, all at the same time. To realize the work that you are doing within your meditation practice is multifaceted, but your attention is single-pointed. So multifaceted, meaning that so many different areas of your life that you have and you wish to express and you wish to mature and develop, and to look at all of them and attempt to give them all their own allotted attention can almost become distractive and then counterproductive. But if now we narrow it down to one stream of awareness that speaks to it all, just like the sun has one just stream moving towards us. The moon is the reflection of that stream. Both incredibly beautiful things. There's the body of water. It's just one body of water that circulates throughout the entire planet, but it's just simply one concentrated body which can express itself easily. Now this is what we want to cultivate with our meditation, is just simply one stream, which then services them all. And we're not needing to see them all of the time because you already know that they're there. You know yourself better than anyone else can. But it's reinforcing to constantly see it, to remind yourself that you're doing something. So tonight I'm saying the quieting of your mind, putting everything to rest, is doing so much. So now all of a sudden your reserves of energy increase because you have one source of awareness that's moving towards a single point. And that single point is a representation of consciousness. So this is the object that we focus on. Within that quality of space, that begins to create the relationship. The heightening, the deepening, the widening, the diversification of. I'm sure this is why the corporate world is getting so interested in meditation now. Because there's just so many directions that everyone goes, but really, because science's instruments are starting to get sensitive enough, everyone is gaining the opportunity to realize that consolidation of an individual's time and energy onto a single point becomes actually beneficial, not just to the individual, but to society. Any questions? I'd say let's sit. Keeping the eyes closed, let's bring full deep breaths into the body. Keeping the eyes closed, bring your gaze into the space just there in front of you. Softening the gaze very, very slowly, gently. Allow the eyes to open. And not choosing to look around too much, but maintaining your gaze on just a single point. The point is not hard. The gaze is not aggressive. It's just soft, subtle. And within that subtlety, there is strength. You can breathe into that strength. You can feel the magnetism of the strength. An increased vitality that is connected to a relaxation. So now realizing the quieter the mind becomes, the clearer the communication is. Hey, Haji. So the quieter we become, the clearer the communication is. The clearer the communication means the clearer the question. Of course, the clearer the question, the better this universal quality can hear the question. And then this universal quality is now better equipped to give the answer. So this is considered insight, right? So insight meditation is vipassana. So vipassana is a concept called insight, which means you take retreat and you sit for days, eyes closed, simply tuning yourself to the sensory experience and then increasing in its subtlety. insight exists within all practice. So you sitting here is the same. Increasing your ability to gain insight into the nature that exists within you, outside of you, all around you. Any questions? So another way of saying it, in aligning to the particular technique that we teach here, is this sattva ananda. So this sattvic quality, the consistency of the body, the breath, and the mind become one. There's an equanimity that's there, which then allows the mind to frame itself in a way that it's seeing that reflection. And then within that reflection, there is a rejoicing. And that rejoicing is the piercing of the veil into what's called the Anandamaya Kosha. So that's this bliss body state, or the glowing experience of the soul, or the intuition that is expressed from the experience of the soul. But it's all directed to that innermost place, so that what we are doing is we become self-reflective and responsive. And that's the reality. Self-reflective and responsive as an individual soul experience, which is then speaking to a universal level of consciousness. So if we contemplate the universe, if we see that it is forever expansive, it's a very big place, a very large space, which encompasses all that you see around you in your immediate and into that blue sky and beyond. So it's one quality of space which is maintaining that. And we are communicating with that on a continuous basis. So now, elevating one's consciousness to the place of realizing that simple fact, that you are a key component within that. There's an element of rest and ease that comes with it. And then slowing things down so that you can see that every moment is a blessing, which we've heard this so many times, right? We know this on an intellectual basis. We even understand it deep inside one's own heart. But on a practical level, to see that this is a blessing that's happening right now, and that also the interruption which occurs within one's life is also a blessing, because this is just the subtle correction. So that's maybe the branch that falls down into the water. So what does the water do? It just goes over top. It corrects itself. So now just become reflective, right? Self-responsive, interacting with oneself, and realizing that there is an exact position, an exact quality that we are attaining, and it's exact. And within this exact experience, it is forever flexible, it is forever joyous. You can do backflips, front flips, whatever it is that you wish to do within that space. You can be as ingenuitive as you want. Is that the word? It is now. Ingenious? Thank you. You can become as ingenious as you want with your time. Which is always designing itself in reflection to that. See what I mean? So if we can maintain a connection to ourselves, then we are always fulfilling. We're filling ourselves up on a continuous basis because we're doing what is right. We're doing what makes perfect sense for us, and no longer walking in directions that do not make direct sense. So again, it becomes so easy. And the only real application that we have to enforce is that of turning inwards, that of connecting with ourselves, that of quieting down the mind. And that all falls under one awareness. So we're really only now doing just one thing. And that's connecting this pure awareness into a space. And then naturally seeing what begins to happen. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste. Enjoy the rest of your evening. It's a beautiful night.